Let it be cold outside, inside we're warm in mind, spreading positive vibes and seeking understanding. And I ain't to demand, I ain't telling you what to do. I'm just telling you, if you seek the truth, you can find it. So come on in and welcome to my podcast number 3, February 22nd, 2019. And if you seek happiness, you will find it. And if you seek happiness, you can find it. And if you're seeking the truth, you can find it. There's lives everywhere. Do your research. Do your research. Yes. Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, ghouls, ghosts, creatures of all types. No judgmental here. Everybody's welcome. This is another podcast where number 1 is positivity and promoting awareness and understanding on various topics and, just life tips. So, here we go. First of all, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I think you should be doing research no matter where you're getting your information. A lot of people you'll hear say the mainstream lies. It does happen. I think more often is that they leave out certain elements of the story so that you draw different conclusions but it's not so much that they lie. But internet's the same way, the opposite, the underground scene is the same way. There's lots of liars out there, so you gotta do your research properly. But if you're seeking an answer, you can find it. It just, for a lot of things, it's gonna take time. It's not, if you're looking up how to fix your muffler on your car, you're not going to be led astray. It's going to be fairly straightforward information. There's no reason for people to lie to you. But if you're seeking up some of these conspiracy topics, you're not going to find an answer in a couple of minutes. So you have to understand that these things take time. So I'm not the best at articulating on the spot. It's something I work on, but it's not. I'm more of a deep thinker. So, I think everybody has their strengths when it comes to that. Their strengths and their weaknesses, and I'm no fool. I know where my strengths and weaknesses are, and give me time. I'll come out with some deep stuff, but on the spot thinking it's not always my greatest point. So it's just to say that from time to time I'm sure I'm gonna slip up. These videos are unedited. So the point is just to bring up some thinking points. It's there are some things we kind of overlook. So it's just to bring up some questions other people are maybe not thinking of, or and like I said, number 1 is positivity always. So today I'm gonna go over some tricks to researching. especially when it comes to conspiracies. Um, because obviously, when you're say you're so number one is you choose a topic, right? So now, is that topic complicated or no? And is it conspiracy or no? So like I was saying with fixing a car, there's no reason for people to be lying to you on certain things. But if a lot of these conspiracies are said that there's this big cover up. Now, you can't expect um, this information to be provided in the mainstream if it is a big cover up, right? I mean, it kind of makes sense. So, um, I'm not saying you should base all your information on pseudoscience sites or anything like that, but you do have to kind of view both sides too, because you have to understand where is the funding coming for these places, and where are alliances for these places, for like anywhere, for mainstream or for other sides. Um, so one big question is why now? Well, like why am I choosing to make conspiracies part of the topics that I'm discussing in my podcasts? And I think the internet. I don't think the people that wanted to control the way narratives go. The people that are kind of, you know, I'm not saying all the people that are in power are trying to control us, but there are people in power that want to control us. So for those people, um, you know, the internet was like a Pandora's box, because for the first time, people all across the globe are able to connect, and information is able to spread um, in ways that it never was before. Um, so you hear about censorship and all these things fairly often, and a lot of websites get shut down, and a lot of videos get taken down. A lot of people's accounts get closed, and I think sooner than later, if there is opposing narratives that the government or whoever is running things, whoever you want to point the fingers at as having the power, um, eventually they're gonna shut all this stuff down. So I think it's important that if you want to know the truth on certain things, that you start looking looking into it, because you know funny animal videos and um, bad day at work videos and all these other junk videos that we enjoy watching are always going to be there. There's no reason for them to want to take down those kind of stuff, those videos. So I think it's a very good idea that if you want to get into some of these things, now's the time, because who knows, you know at some point they're going to be able to censor everything. So um, it's a good idea. All right, so now, believe it or not, I actually think YouTube's a very good place to start when you're researching. Visuals and life experiences can be helpful. So obviously, if you're going to a classroom to have a teacher talk to you, it's not because you don't have a textbook, but it's the teacher helping explain. You know what I mean? So visuals and life experiences could be helpful. Um, Now, not to work for YouTube, but I will say, for I know some people that have mentioned that they don't have YouTube accounts. It's super easy to sign up. Um, and it's a very effective tool if you find channel, because there are very good channels out there, um, that you could subscribe to, and then you'll have an area in your subscriptions where things will pop up, and I don't know. I find it takes 2 seconds to sign up, but they don't take very much information, and yeah, I've had a very good experience with it, anyways. Um, so usually when I watch YouTube videos, if I'm actually trying to research something, I'll either take notes while I'm watching it, or at the end of the video I'll go back to take notes, and find other uh, to take that way I could cross reference other things, go to other videos that search keywords and stuff like that. Also try and find other videos that prove or disprove the initial video. So I think it's important to consider that sometimes in the mainstream they'll give us two sides of the story, right? They'll say this is what we're saying here in the news, as the mainstream narrative, and this is what they're saying in um, on the other side narrative. And oftentimes, when you actually look it up for yourself, what they're telling you the other narrative isn't the actual other narrative. So it's very misleading sometimes, and both sides are guilty of it. I'm not saying that conspirators or whatever you want to call people that look into the truth. Um, I think sometimes we're a bit unfair on our views of the government, and who's running things, and the mainstream and everything. I think at heart everybody has the best intentions. I think the majority of people have the good intentions at heart. Um, so, um, yeah, sorry to get off topic, which I'm sure is going to happen very often on these videos. So once I have a firm understanding, or at least I think I do, then it comes to hitting the books, so to speak. So this can mean actual books or web pages. Um, Now, a lot of universities, etc., and Wikipedia is not bad place to start as far as mainstream science goes. But alternate science should also be considered. So, like I was saying earlier, if if it's something that's said, um, there's a big lie that they're trying to cover up. You're not gonna find um, both sides of the story in mainstream science, even if they're telling you what both sides of the story are. Until you look into it at the actual other side of the story, you know what I mean? It's it, and again, it goes back to, I don't think it's so much that they lie. I think it's that they leave out gaps. So, um, if you don't have the full story, it's hard to draw a proper conclusion on things. So always keep in mind who the authors and websites are, and that's it's kind of ridiculous that we have to go to the point of searching up, okay, what is this website, who's funding it, who is this author, who is funding his so it's kind of sad that um, there's so many disingenuous people out there that are trying to mislead us. Um, all I can say is, um, when you're going to be looking up some of these things, be careful about planting your feet too firmly on your beliefs. So what I mean by that is, don't completely throw everything you've learned out the window, but give your beliefs a little room to bend. And the only thing I think we should be ideals that we should be planting our feet firmly are on our morals. You know, we learn that at a very young age, not to hurt each other or murder, or steal, all those, the Ten Commandments, all that type of stuff. I think treating each other as you'd want to be treated, like all that stuff's very important. And over time, a lot of a lot of all of us are guilty of it to a degree, of our morals slowly bending over time. But our beliefs, I think, far too often we just stick our feet in the ground. Yeah, we've learned this. I saw a couple documentaries on this. I understood it. It seemed logical. Case closed. Um, don't close that case. Is what I'm saying. Is give it a little room to bend, because if for some things, if we're being big lied to and there is a big conspiracy, like I said, um, it's going to be very difficult to um, pull all the pieces together, because you're only going to get fragments of it here and there, and you've got to really think deeply on this. Um, so some examples of unknown conspiracies: subliminal messages. So I find this is very interesting, because you know uh, I didn't research too much on this, but I remember hearing about commercials where they were doing flash messages, and people were running out to buy stuff, and it was brainwashing people. Now, the companies were eventually caught and they stopped. Now, at the time, before they got caught, if the first person who walked into a doctor's office saying, "Hey, there's some group of people that's trying to brainwash us into buying products or whatever," that doctor would have been like, "Yeah, off to the loony bin, conspirator." You know, we would have all said that person was making up a conspiracy. We now know now that obviously there was a conspiracy. So, um, it's just to say is they were willing to do it then. Does that because they are caught, they stopped? Does that mean that the willingness to try and do it went away? Um, because it's all this, these big companies oftentimes just get smacks on the wrist, and I don't think we come down on them. Um, we don't come hard down on these big companies hard enough sometimes. Um, cigarettes are hilarious, actually, because when you look at the old commercials, it's like looking through a portal into another dimension, because nowadays it's just, we all know, right, that cigarettes are bad for us, and it's just so well documented. Whereas back in the 60s, you look at the commercials, oh my god. Um, and any any doctors that were going against the the um, the mainstream narrative of cigarettes being good for your health at the time, I'm sure there were doctors and scientists that lost their jobs. There were people that were being imagine if you said, "Oh, well, cigarettes are bad for you," and all these commercials are telling us that they're good, you know. So this at the time you would have been a conspirator or whatever. So it's um, you know, I think oftentimes conspiracies are truths that just haven't been proven yet. So um, that's what I'll say on that. This is the point I'm trying to make here with these examples of conspiracies. You know, reefer madness. Um, you know, led up, almost caused pretty much to a degree was a cause of the drug war. You know, and it was proven that it was like. You know, it was just to make money. You know, it's like, and all this propaganda, and you know, nowadays, you know, now it's legal, right? And, you know, we know it's not this dangerous devil herb or whatever they wanted to say at the time. Um, and also, we see it all the time. You know, the news platforms flip flopping back and forth on issues. So I think a lot of the time we know there's more to the story than we're told in the mainstream, whether or not we're lied to. So people that automatically go straight to dismissing anything that's labeled conspiracy, be wary of that, because oftentimes it's not that it's a conspiracy, that it's that there is political and economical interests. It's not, you know. It's so um for me, I look at things slow. You know, when I cover some topics, I just want to address the fact that I kind of look at things more in a global lens. Now, I believe that names and locations and countries and lines on maps should be purely just that, lines on maps. Now, I don't think I see the value of having closed borders and stuff like that, but I think at this point, with the internet, with our ability to travel across the planet, um, with our level of intelligence, with our capability for compassion, I think we need to start opening our hearts and start viewing things a little bit more on a global scale. Especially here in North America, you know, we're essentially a melting pot. We're a land of immigrants. So, I mean, um, obviously understand there's some current issues with you know, nobody wants terrorists in our country and stuff like that. But you know, this isn't a new issue. This immigration theme has been going on for years and years and years and years. So it's just another way to make us squabble amongst each other and to sow hatred. Um, you know, we need to start loving each other, and I understand that you know, we have to look out for ourselves, but you know, sometimes I think we're just not really thinking about um, the grand picture, and when we're told to we're given places to direct our hate, essentially, and it's just to misplace it, and you know, I don't think we should have that hate in the first place. We should be trying to let that go and trying to be more loving and compassionate. Um, so I'll get into two songs for the week. My first song is John Lennon, Imagine. Um, I'm not gonna go over a favorite song, favorite line from the song because I think um, it's just a very, very well written, well thought out song, and it really pains me when I think back and everything that he was doing leading up to his death. Um, he was an incredible individual that was going against the grain in many ways, and um, so some of the themes that come up in the song is essentially is utopia possible? You know, the chorus is you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one, and is it possible? And I think one question we need to go over on that is, what does it mean as an individual and as a collective? So obviously everybody's individual dream world or utopia is a completely different idea, you know. And is it possible to ascertain it as a collective? I would say that in our society we base it principally on the individual utopia. So essentially, the American dream or Canadian dream or whatever, that's the ability to make a utopia for yourself. Essentially, now usually when you talk about utopia, what it gets on the collective side of things, it gets a link to communism and socialism very often. Um, Now, I really have to question, you know, as an individual, I think most of us in North America, anyways, are doing pretty good for ourselves, um, or are we're making it by, anyways. Um, where I live, I think we're in my suburban area. You know, there's not much poverty. But I know in the States, in some areas, it's, you look at videos of Detroit and stuff like that, it's like, man, there's some scary rundown areas even in the States. So I have to really question, is an individual utopia even possible? Um, for because whether or not you believe in the utopia for the collective or for individuals, the question is, what works better for the most amount of humanity, right? It shouldn't be, and I think our system works kind of good for most of us, extremely well for some people, and then extremely bad for others. And I think people should have the right and the power and to excel and get ahead in life, and even become wealthy and powerful. I have no problem with people becoming filthy rich, but you really got to question, does that make you a good person, compassionate person, and are the people that have all this money in our world treating this responsibility that is inherited with this money and power properly. Um, some yes, some no. Some yes, some no. And I think a lot of times we have to do some pretty questionable things to get money in this life. I don't think, it's not oftentimes doing bad stuff is rewarded, and oftentimes doing good stuff isn't. So I don't know how we can change that, but that is, I think, something we should be working on as a society. Um, so some synonyms for utopia, just that I thought were pretty fun. Paradise, heaven on earth, Garden of Eden, Shangri-La, Elysium, Nirvana, and my favorite of them all is Happy Valley. I just think that's a place I want to go. Sounds pretty fun, right? Um, and the definition of utopia is an imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect. Now, I don't think, obviously, nobody could be perfect. I think we work at it, and it's good to work at it. You know, um, but to imagine a perfect society, of course, it can't happen because no individual is perfect, and so by definition, that if you have flawed people, we're going to create a flawed system. I think, um, but I think um, too often we take it off the table altogether. Even now, whether it's possible or not, I think that should be our goal, right? Should you know whether or not our whether or not utopia is possible, that has to be our goal. You know what I mean? So I think taking it off the table as a possibility when often, and it happens very often in political discussions, um, it's dangerous. You know what I mean? Because that why would you take something that's so positive off the table? You know what I mean? The idea of a place where everybody's living out their dreams, everybody's happy, and who would fight against that? What I don't. So I think it's anyway. So that's just my a little bit of my view on utopia. Now I think obviously it's going to be hard to get there, and obviously socialism and communism in the context of real world situations that have happened hasn't worked. But um, who cares what the name of it is? I think loving and caring for each other is in a society where um, people don't abuse the system so much. Like I think we all abuse the government and the system because nobody cares about it, right? I mean, everybody from the poorest person to the richest person, they complain about people on welfare robbing the government, and then people in the government are robbing the government, and just all the road workers are standing around, and we're all driving by a lot like, look at them wasting the taxpayers' money, and it's just become a joke at this point to us all because um, it's just a degradation of our respect, uh, because it's the system's let us down so many times that it's just like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. um, I don't know what'll change that. I don't and I don't think a full-on revolution is ever the answer, because violence is not the solution if you're wanting to create, if you're wanting to create more love and compassion in the world, and you're fighting for something that's good, violence is, I mean, should be absolutely your last means. All right, so now I got well off topic on. So that was my first song, John Lennon, Imagine. Um, if you haven't heard this song, look it up. I mean, the Beatles, so there's um, I'm sure not too many people that haven't heard that song. So the second song, Jedi Mind Tricks, Marciano's Reign. Um, this is a good song. I like this song a lot. It's has a nice beat, and Vinny Paz, which is the singer for Jedi Mind Tricks, he just has a very, he puts a lot of passion into his singing, and you could really tell that um, he's singing from the heart. You know what I mean? And there's a really good music video for this song. It's about a little boy and his dragon, and the dragon gets struck by lightning, and the old wise man, I guess his grandfather or father, I don't know who, shows up, and the dragon's clearly in pain, and so he ends up telling the kid that he's got to put his dragon down, and the kid fights with it and it ends up running away, and then in the end comes back and puts the dragon down. And I mean, it almost drives me to tears every time I watch the video. But it's a very clear message that sometimes we have to embrace the pain, and because it could be a growing experience, and that can be said on a lot of for a lot of things. You know, we try and fight against all the pain and suffering in this world, as we should. Um, but in some cases, we become numb to it and we just try and shut it out, and instead, um, sometimes you have to let it in, and see that that this is real. You know what I mean? This is the pain and suffering I'm seeing of these people is real, and and feel that pain and grow from it, and don't be afraid or scared to face adversity in your life. You know. So last week I missed out showing you guys a couple of my pictures. So here's one of my mazes. A little crabby guy there. And maze number 2. So you can see there's a little circle here. You start here, and you gotta make it all the way up there. So I have 11 of these done so far. I've been slacking a bit on doing them lately, but yeah. So another thing I wanted to show you guys today is this, which is called shungite. Now this is meteorite from a lake bed in Russia, and it's said to have, I forget what the chemical compound is, like full of beans or Philippines or something like that. Anyways, it's one of the only things you find it in, and yeah, it's awesome. It's said to help with negating the negative effects from radio frequencies such as Wi-Fi, your phone, all the radiation that's coming out. So yeah, I have one of these. Um, it's hard to tell with these things if it works or not because all this stuff is invisible, right? But I can tell you if you look up there's a lot of scientific evidence out there on the effects of Wi-Fi and all these radio frequencies on our body because essentially it's all energy that's holding everything together, right? All matter in this universe is held together by frequencies and energy, and the science is very complicated, but it's very interesting, and it's that gets into the realm of other dimensions and spirituality and all that. So that'll definitely be for another day. I guess I'll end with a song, I guess, or yeah, I'll end with a song where I got carried away again. We're at 41 minutes, so if you guys are still with me, thanks for listening. This is great, and if you guys have any suggestions or anything to add, or anything, like I said, I'll respond to YouTube comments, Facebook comments, anywhere you can find me. So I'm open to discussion, and the love's for everyone. Show your cat, show your dog, tell your grandpa. Send an email to the senator of Wisconsin. I don't care. Everybody is invited. The love's for everyone. So, what song can I play? I didn't really think too much on a song, so maybe so this is not really a song, but I think maybe I had wrote some. I mean, I've had these lyrics floating around in my head this morning, so maybe they came from something I wrote at some. Kick you when you're down, kick you when you're up anyway. Don't let it get you down. They'll kick you when you're down. They'll kick you when you're up anyway. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it get you down. Thanks for listening, guys. Honestly, it means a lot that you gave me a click. And, next week I'll be right back at it with some more information and some more hopefully helpful tips, and lots of love, and honestly, thanks a lot. So